Hello children, welcome to the class. Today we will do the poem A Tiger in the Zoo by Leslie Norris. This poem contrasts a tiger in the zoo with the tiger in its natural habitat. The poem moves from zoo to the jungle and back again to the zoo. The poem provides a contrast in the mood of the tiger when he is in the zoo and when he is in the jungle. In the jungle, he is happy and joyful, but in the zoo, he has no freedom. He is kept in a cemented cell behind the bars. He feels angry, frustrated, and helpless. So we see that the poem has two distinct settings. The first setting is that of the zoo where the tiger is put in a cage. The second setting is that of the natural wild habitat of the tiger, which should have been his real place. This poem consists of 5 stanzas. In the first stanza, the tiger walks in quiet race in the zoo. In the second stanza, the poet tells us that he should have been in his natural habitat. In the third stanza, the tiger could be seen terrorizing the villagers. In the fourth stanza, the poet brings us back to the zoo. The tiger is in the cage and not in the natural habitat. In the fifth stanza, the tiger remains awake till late at night, staring at the stars. Now, let us do the poem in detail. So, we start with the first stanza. He stalks in his vivid stripes, the few steps of his cage, on pads of velvet quiet, in his quiet race. In the first stanza, the poet describes the tiger in the zoo. The tiger moves up and down within the confines of his cage. He can hardly take a few steps along the length of the cage. He looks majestic in his vivid stripes. The tiger walks quietly on his smooth velvet paths. The tiger is angry but has suppressed his anger because he knows that he is helpless. In his quiet race, this tells us that the tiger has suppressed his anger. Now the second stanza. He should be lurking in shadow, sliding through long grass near the water hole where plump deer pass. Looking at the imprisoned tiger, the poet is filled with pity. He imagines another life for the tiger, other than the zoo. He says that the tiger should have been in the forest, that is, in its natural habitat. He should be. This suggests that the tiger should have been in the forest in his natural habitat. There he would have been lying in the shadows of trees or hiding himself behind long grass so that his prey would not be able to detect him. In this way, sliding quietly through the long grass, he would have moved near the water hole where all the animals come to drink water. There he would be waiting for some fat, plump deer to pass. Thus, he would be lying there in expectation of a heavy feast. The poet means that the zoo is not the right place for the tiger. His real place is in the wild. Now the third stanza. He should be snarling around houses at jungle's edge, bearing his white fangs in his claws, terrorizing the village. In the third stanza, the poet imagines that what the tiger would do in case he failed to find any prey in his natural habitat. He says that the tiger would be crawling at the edge of a jungle near some village. He would be showing his white fangs and claws while moving here and there with the intention of scaring the villagers. He would thus become a cause of terror for the villagers. The poet here gives a hint that if we destroy the natural habitat of tigers, they'd be forced to move to our towns and villages to find their food. Here, the poet tries to say that generally the tigers never attack until provoked. Killing is not their hobby, but only the necessity for food. Tigers hunt only and when required. Now the fourth stanza. But he is locked in a concrete cell, his strength behind bars, stalking the length of his cage, ignoring visitors. So in this stanza, the poet returns to the zoo. Unfortunately, the tiger is caged in the small concrete cell in the zoo like a prisoner in the jail. In spite of all his strength, it now lies imprisoned behind the bars. His strength is of no use to him. The tiger shows no attention to the visitors, ignoring visitors who come to see him every day at the zoo. Instead, the tiger very slowly and silently moves up and down along the length of the cage. Now the last stanza. He hears a last voice at night, the patrolling cars, and stares with her brilliant eyes at the brilliant stars. In this stanza, the poet describes about the daily routine of the tiger, how the day ends for him. The tiger does not rest during the day because of the visitors. Even at night, it stays awake till the very last voice of the zookeeper locking up and going home can be heard. All night, it remains disturbed due to the noise of the patrolling cars. He kept staring at the brilliant stars with his brilliant eyes. Perhaps he is asking heaven why he has been imprisoned there. He has to be content with merrily looking at the stars. He is no longer free to move in his natural habitat and look at the brilliant stars from there. It seems that the tiger is cursing his stars, his fate, which have put him in a helpless cage. In this poem, the poet highlights the contrast between freedom and captivity and shows us how love for freedom is a natural instinct of every living being. Confinement is cruelty. Taking away one's freedom kills the desire to live. Nobody wants to bear the chains of slavery. Human beings, animals, and birds all are alike in this matter. It is inhuman that we have encroached on the freedom of animals in the name of sheltering them in the zoos. We must learn to respect nature. The poet's point is we should return all animals to their natural habitat. We should protect forests instead of taking forest lands a way for agriculture and industrialization. The poet, by setting up a contrast between the real and the ideal, has put up a strong case of preservation of the wild animals in their natural habitat. In the poem, the tiger is locked up in a strong cage. He doesn't seem happy in the zoo. All his strength lies useless behind the bars. His bright eyes stares the starlit sky, perhaps cursing his stars which have put him in a helpless situation. So, we need to understand that the natural habitat of a tiger is jungle. It is shameful that the tiger is in a zoo. Like human beings, animals too love and value their freedom. Now, let us discuss the poetic devices used here. The first one is alliteration. Alliteration is the occurrence of the same letter or sound at the beginning of adjacent or closely connected words. So look at the first line of the second stanza. He should be lurking in shadow. Should and shadow. Next, metaphor. Metaphor is used to make comparisons between two different things or ideas without the use of words like or as. So look at the first stanza, third line, on paths of velvet quiet. Here the poet compares the paths of the tiger's feet with velvet. Next is personification. The poet refers to the tiger as he and not as it. Next, poetic device used is repetition. Read the last two lines of the first stanza. On paths of velvet quiet in his quiet rays. The word quiet has been repeated here. Similarly, in the last stanza, and stares with his brilliant eyes at the brilliant stars. The word brilliant has been repeated here. So I hope this is going to help you understand the poem A Tiger in the Zoo. Thank you.